Jack Leiter's been pitching his butt off this spring. On today's show, I'm going to tell you why it might not even take an injury for him to crack the opening day starting rotation. Talk about all that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, we're talking about Jack Leiter pitching as good as better than I've ever seen. And we're talking about Cody Bradford, why he is definitely deserving of a spot in this starting rotation, and a little bit about the best day of the week, deGrom Day. But before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Now, the Rangers played a couple of games yesterday, and there were a lot of storylines in both of them. A split squad game, one team playing against the Los Angeles Dodgers, the reigning World Series champs, the other playing against that team's hated rival, the San Diego Padres. And there are a lot of things that I'll get to about these two games, but I think the thing that the thing that I need to start with is Jack freaking Leiter. Pitching better than I have ever seen him pitch before in my life. And I've seen Jack Leiter a lot. I don't think there has been a pitching prospect that I've seen pitch more frequently than Jack Leiter. I have talked about Jack Leiter on this program here probably more than any player outside of Joey Gallo. Even then, I think Leiter has surpassed the Gallo talk in the 1,278 give or take episodes on this show. And this spring, Jack Leiter is doing something that I've never seen him do. I have not seen him make these adjustments so quickly, to add these different wrinkles. He is such a heady pitcher, and for the first couple of years, what was so maddening about the experience of watching Jack Leiter is that he would go in, he would make the exact same mistakes over and over and over and over and over and over again. You probably listen to me and Grant talk. If you've listened to the show for a long time, you've probably heard Grant Schiller and I talk about how, wow, Jack Leiter's missing arm side or glove side with his fastball again. Shocker, we've never seen that happen before, except we had a whole lot. And the properties of that fastball have always been good, but it's just the other stuff that hadn't really played up. It's just the arsenal, wasn't living up to, the other pitches outside of the fastball weren't quite living up to what we expected of them making these leaps forward, the slider and the curveball. Both those were potential double plus pitches, but he didn't trust them to throw them for strikes. And the changeup was kind of mid to boring. The cutter that he filled around with was not effective at all. Then he comes in this spring and he adds not just one new pitch, but 2 new pitches, adding a sinker to kind of get other hitters, especially right-handers, off of his four-seam fastball, just sitting on that and crushing it, and a new kind of a changeup that pitchers who throw the specific way that Jack Leiter do can throw a little bit more effectively than a normal changeup. It just drops straight down. He learned it from Matt Festa. It's called a kick change. If you want to sound really smart with your friends, say, oh yeah, I noticed Jack Leiter's new kick change, and he learned that from Matt Festa, and it's been a very good pitch for him. You'll sound very smart if you talk about that. But in this game, Jack Leiter threw 3 innings, didn't give up a single walk, struck out 3, just gave up a couple of hits and no earned runs. But that's not really what we're here to talk about, the stats. We are here to talk about the arsenal, the everything about Jack Leiter. And if you're watching here on YouTube, I will just throw up that StatCast data to kind of show you a little bit about what Jack Leiter was working on. I mean, the swing and miss rate, that's kind of what the thing that I want to highlight of how little these hitters were touching his stuff. And this is not just some, minor leagues, backfields, random AA guys that are getting overwhelmed by Jack Leiter. These are legit big leaguers. I know it's spring training, and one of those big leaguers does happen to be Martin Maldonado, who's one of the worst hitters we've ever seen in the big leagues ever. But, some of them are actually very, very good big leaguers, like Manny Machado, like Jackson Merrill. Mainly those two, but still, these are legit big leaguers. Gavin Sheets as well, that he is making look just downright foolish. Now, this is a whole lot of data to kind of throw at you. This is a better little smaller sample size to look at you. This is from TJ Stats on Twitter, not Tommy John Stats, but just kind of a little radar heat map of showing you, this is kind of where everything is grading out. You look at that TJ Stuff Plus. That's just kind of an overall rating of like how good just the measurables and stuff are on those different pitches. You look at all of those pitches are above average. Most of them at least 5% or at least 7% above league average. The changeup looked really, really good. The curveball, that's as good as it's ever been. Every time that a hitter swung at his curveball, they missed it. They didn't make contact a single time. 3 swings and misses. The slider, they swung and missed at half the time. The changeup, they swung and missed at half the time. The 4-seam fastball, 5 whiffs on 11 swings. They were not making good contact with that. Also had 4 called strikes. So nearly almost half of his pitches were either swings and misses or called strikes. He was also out of the zone on more than half of his pitches, but they were swinging and missing. They were chasing out of the zone. They were respecting that he can throw his stuff in the zone, and they were chasing. That's the whole thing with Jack. And this is one last little chart that I want to show you to kind of illustrate this point home. This is something that I've been begging for Jack to do for a long time. Look at the 4-seam fastball specifically. I've got this pitch chart of all the pitches that he threw. Look at where the 4-seam fastball is. That's the reddest, or I guess maroon-ish. It looks maroon on my screen, but it's kind of reddish. Look where that 4-seam fastball is. It's up in the zone or on the edges of the zone. The properties of Jack's fastball, the actual stuff, it's good. He throws it hard. He's throwing it even harder than ever now. He's throwing it averaging 98 miles an hour. Last year he was around 96.5. That's a big deal. But the properties, the spin, the everything about it is so good. But you look at the run values and stuff, how it's actually getting, hit by big leaguers, and it's, rated as one of the worst pitches because of where he's throwing it. He's throwing it in the middle of the zone. He doesn't have other stuff to get hitters off of it. Now he has the other stuff. He has more other stuff that he is trusting, and he is throwing for strikes and throwing it for strikes consistently, and also throwing it for swings and misses out of the zone when he wants to. He's getting the results, and with the fastball, the quality of it was good, but where he was throwing it wasn't good. Now he's throwing it where he should. He's throwing it up in the zone. He's throwing it at the edges of the zone. He's not just throwing it right down Broadway and having hitters just sit on it and crush it. This is the Jack we were promised. This is the Jack Leiter that the Rangers drafted 2nd overall. This is the guy, capital guy, that the Rangers were hoping that he could be. Because development is a long process. Jack is a very smart, very talented pitcher. And these adjustments, so many adjustments so quickly. I mean, it reminds you that, development is not a linear thing. It's not just, guy gets drafted, goes to low level, struggles a little bit, figures out low level, then bumped up, then repeat process at next level, and then boom, you're in the big leagues. Struggle a little bit, then you get to be a good big leaguer. It's random. It's zigzaggy. It is a minefield maze, and it is different for every single pitcher. For Jack, it took him a lot of failures at AA, even a little bit of failures at AAA, and he's already had a lot of failures at the big league level, and he'll have some more, but he will also have a lot of success at the big league level. After this spring, I'm not looking at the stats. The stats are good. The stats are good this spring training, the results, that's good, but more the processes, the pitch, the things that go into why he is putting up those stats. That's what matters in spring training. Why is he making these big league hitters look so bad? Why is he having this level of success? What is he working on? All of those things, all these new developments, all of these, being malleable, being adaptable, learning how to change and adapt and figure out what works and what doesn't, and go do those things, and then repeat that process over and over and over again for the rest of your big league career. That's what makes big league hitters, or big league pitchers, just big leaguers in general, the best of the best. And for Jack, not seeing those adjustments were why scouts and prospect evaluators and people that followed the game were like, okay, well, he wasn't making those adjustments, so What do we do? For a couple of years, it was like, okay, it's the same freaking thing with this guy. I mean, he throws the fastball hard. He's got, breaking stuff that moves really good. His dad was a big leaguer for almost 20 years. Won a World Series, was an All-Star. Cool. Great. He's not getting any better. Now, he got a lot better. And he got a lot better and better and better. We saw that the beginning stages of that last year. Now we're seeing not the end stages, but even more, even exponential growth and improvement for Jack Leiter, to the point where, I'm not really having those questions of, can he stick as a starter? Now, in my mind, I mean, I still think, if everything at the bottom falls out, then, he still could be one of the nastiest relievers in baseball. I'm not thinking of that, though. I'm thinking that floor has been established with this new sinker, with this new changeup, with this ability to adapt and improve and dominate like this. Again, I know it's spring training. I know it's not entirely against big leaguers or entirely against good big leaguers and not them trying to put up actual stats and win baseball games. I know all of that. But with what I've seen with Jack, for me, the floor is up. The floor is up. The floor is number 5 starter for me now. I think this guy is definitely a starter. And that ceiling, when the Rangers drafted him, there was not the ceiling of ace number 1 Cy Young guy. I still don't think that's there. But the ceiling of number 2 starting pitcher, you start throwing games like this into big league games that matter, suddenly that ceiling of number 2 type of starting pitcher in a rotation, guy who can start you a playoff game, and not a game 1, but a game 2 or game 3, and you feel really, really good about it, and that's back on the table for Jack. That was off the table for the last couple of years. It's back on there for Jack Leiter with starts like this, with what he's been doing all spring, and not just what he's been doing, but how he's been doing it. It has completely changed my mind on Jack Leiter, a guy who has changed my mind over and over again, up and down and up and down and up and down. The Leiter roller coaster is up. It is way up, and I don't know if he's going to break camp as a member of the Rangers starting rotation or even on the Rangers roster, but he's making them take a hard look at him as a starter, not just for the long term, but also for the right now. Coming up, we're talking about a guy who I'm pretty sure is going to be in the Rangers opening day starting rotation, why he should be, and why Jack Leiter's path to the big leagues got a little bit easier with what this guy has done last year. All that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. When the games tip off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get it on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. They got all kinds of basketball odds right now. They got some hockey odds, and right now the Rangers win total for 2025 is at over under 85.5 wins. It's honestly exactly the same, -110 for over 85.5 wins, -110 for under 85.5 wins. Don't see that all that often. A fun little betting odd they have here is they have odds for the odds to break the regular season wins record of 116. It'd be 117 plus wins. Right now, the Dodgers at plus 710 to win 117 games, the most we've ever seen anyone win in a regular season. That's kind of wild. The next closest, the Atlanta Braves, tied with the New York Yankees, tied with the Philadelphia Phillies, all at plus 6,000. That just kind of tells you how insanely good they think the Dodgers will be this year. And right now, the Rangers have the 5th best odds to make the playoffs in the American League at -128, just barely behind the Boston Red Sox at -130. So go check out all those odds right now. New FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. It's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Shout out to the Airders making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. I'll be back on Monday talking about this weekend, talking about deGrom Day that's happening today, talking about Wyatt Langford's debut. We'll talk about all that on Monday's show. Well, let's talk about another starting pitcher. Cody Bradford, who started in that game, gave up just 1 run. Actually, no, I believe it was 2 runs. Yeah, 2 runs on 2 solo home runs, one of which was wind-aided, the other of which was maybe a little wind-aided as well. But those are the only 2 hits, the only 2 base runners actually that he gave up in 4 innings of work. Struck out a couple, didn't allow any walks, which is very much the Cody Bradford way. And Cody Bradford, he pitched well. His velocity is up just a little bit this this spring, averaging a little bit over 90 miles an hour, basically half a mile an hour up from what he was averaging last year. He was at 89.8 miles an hour last year. In this start, he was up to 90.3. In the start before this, he was averaging around 91, which was like, whoa, look out, Cody Bradford, getting all the way up there to 93. But with Bradford, he is very much the opposite type of a pitcher as Jack Leiter. Leiter is all about stuff, all about velocity, all about, just making hitters chase out of the zone, not necessarily hitting his spots as much, but just relying on the pure quality of that stuff as opposed to more pitchability. And whereas Bradford, who is also left-handed versus Jack Leiter being right-handed, he is a little bit taller, a little bit bigger than Jack. He is more of a finesse, more of a feel, more of a, command rather than just control, throwing quality strikes exactly where he wants, leaning on a lot of deception versus just, chucking it past you 100 miles an hour, which Jack didn't quite get up to 100, but it did read 100 on the gun because the max pitch that he threw was 99.6 miles an hour. Bradford, I don't think, is going to start throwing 100 miles an hour. That'd be crazy awesome if he just had a kind of Cole Reagan-y offseason, one offseason, just comes in, just sitting 95. That would be really game-changing for Bradford. But he doesn't need to do that to have success. He is still a very, very good pitcher, and he should be a member of this Rangers starting rotation from the get-go. I mean, this is the first decent homegrown starting pitcher the Rangers have developed in basically almost a decade. It's been such a long time since the Rangers have done that, and because Cody Bradford did that, I think that there is this generational curse, it feels like, that has been lifted. I mean, Bradford legit did it. You might have forgotten about what he was doing last year, but he had 3.5 ERA. He had 76 in the third innings last year. He had 13 starts. He was good. He was not just, he's pretty good for a guy who only throws 90. No, he was good, is good, and is getting better. That fastball changeup combination works very, very well for him because he is so tall, because he has such great extension, listed at 6'4", 197 pounds, the Alito alum, the Baylor boy, the left-handed lanky man who is crushing it this spring. He is pitching incredibly well. The strikeout numbers are really, really good this spring. The velocity is up. If it can stick up there around 91, each tick is a lot more important for Cody. Actually, every mile an hour velocity for four-seam fastballs for basically everybody. I mean, I need to go find the stats so I can talk about it on Monday. But basically, with Jack Leiter, the difference between him throwing 96 and him throwing 98 is leaps and bounds difference. The same thing is true for Cody Bradford. The same thing was true of Cole Reagan's, which is why he exploded. He went from a guy who's, probably number 4, number 5 starter to bona fide number 1 starter with Reagan's, and Bradford, each little mile an hour tick up, ticks him up closer to that mid-rotation type of starter. I think right now he's probably a number 4, which is really good. That is a really valuable thing, and it's something the Rangers haven't done in forever. But I think Bradford definitely needs to be a part of this rotation. I think the ceiling on him, heck, even I think the floor on him is higher than maybe John Gray and even Tyler Mahle, because Bradford, even though he missed a lot of time last year, it felt like a little bit more of a freak injury than something that's going to be recurring, that's going to, keep cropping up and keep holding him back. But this is a guy who needs to be a part of this Rangers rotation, not just now, but for long term. I mean, homegrowing any kind of decent starting pitching hasn't happened in such a long time. And now the Rangers have a lot of guys that are either on the brink of it or already doing it. Bradford is that first guy, and then that next wave of Leiter and Rocker, who were probably going to be here at some point this year, if not right out of the gates. I mean, I have no idea what the plan is for Rocker or what the plan is for Leiter, but Leiter's knocking on that door very aggressively. I mean, he's not just timidly, oh, excuse me, I'm here. Is anybody home? Just politely, maybe. He's banging on that door. He is just hammering the doorbell, and Bradford is already there. Bradford has done nothing to lose his spot in the rotation, and I think eventually it might result in either a trade of Mahle. We'll see, because you got to hope that everybody gets all the way to opening day completely healthy. That's why you want to have 18 bazillion different capable big league starting pitchers, and why I think Adrian Hauser might get a sniff. But I would honestly rather Jack Leiter right now or Kumar Rocker jump into the rotation if there's an injury than someone like Adrian Hauser. No offense to Adrian Hauser. They might end up needing 8, 9, 10 different guys to make starts this year. But Bradford has done nothing to lose his spot in this rotation. I have loved what I've seen from him, not just this spring, but also last year, and heck, even at points in 2023, which he got called up a little bit before he was ready. But what he did in 2023 was admirable, was necessary. He's a World Series champion forever. And the Rangers needed every bit of what he did in 2023. So don't sleep on what Cody Bradford's doing just because he's not chucking up 100 miles an hour, not breaking off crazy curveballs like Kumar Rocker or like Jack Leiter, or ripping 95-mile-an-hour sliders. Just because Jacob deGrom's slider is harder than Cody Bradford's fastball does not mean that he can't be an effective, not just effective, but pretty darn good starting pitcher. And by the way, he's also homegrown. Now let's get to a little bit of other tidbits and notes from these multiple different games that were pitched or that were played yesterday. The Rangers faced off against the Dodgers and the San Diego Padres. They got a shutout inning of Robert Garcia. Good to see him out there and getting in some work. I'm pretty sure this is his Cactus League debut. 1 shutout inning, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. I believe he also had a hit batter, but no hits, no runs to his name. Also, Mark Church getting back out there for another perfect inning of work. Didn't get any strikeouts in this one, but still sitting up there with 98 miles an hour on that 4-seam fastball. That is a good sign for Mark Church, who might end up breaking camp with the Rangers towards the back end of that bullpen. I mean, the Rangers have a lot of guys signed to confirmed major league deals. The only guys who are, I think, probably going to make this bullpen from opening day that have options left are Robert Garcia, who I don't see the Rangers optioning. I see him maybe fighting for that closer's role. Dane Dunning also has a minor league option, but I don't see the Rangers optioning him just to add somebody else in that long man kind of a role. I think that's perfect for Dunning. If he needs to make some spot starts here or there, he can definitely do that. But this bullpen is starting to have a whole lot of nastiness there. And there are also some good moments from the kids. And speaking of the kids, we're going to talk about the Rangers spring training breakout roster. Which prospects are on it? Who do you need to look for? And a couple of news and notes from the B game. These kids putting up some crazy numbers, even if it didn't result in a win against the defending World Series champs. All that and more right after this. Now, just a couple more things from these games. Leody Taveras keeps putting up some crazy exit velocities in these games. This spring, his numbers overall don't look great. He's had a few more strikeouts than I would have liked, but he had a couple of really, really great plate appearances in this one, including working a walk that was a called strike 3, using that ABS challenge system, saying, hey, I knew that was ball 4 on a full count, said, hey, no, I just worked a walk here. You are not going to steal it from me and call me out looking. And he was absolutely correct. Also put up one of the hardest exit velocities we've seen from a Ranger this spring, 112.6 miles per hour. He did that on a double, 166 feet, expected batting average of 860. I mean, he was just absolutely crushing it. Same with Jake Berger, continues to put up some crazy exit velocities. Kevin Pillar, also a couple of big exit velos over, well, one just under 105 miles an hour at 104.9, one at 106. Both of those, a couple of hits. Dustin Harris putting up some big exit velos as well. Josh Young also putting up some big old exit velos. But Leody Taveras, I think he's still going to make the Rangers opening day roster. I think it's a little closer because we've seen Kevin Pillar have himself a very good spring. On Evan Grant's most recent opening day roster projection, he has Kevin Pillar making the opening day roster over Ezekiel Duran. Duran does still have some options, and Duran hasn't had the best spring, but Pillar gives something to the Rangers. I wish that it would just be Zeke Duran crushing lefties, and that would be the way things go. I mean, I like Kevin Pillar. I'm still a believer in Zeke Duran, but he just hasn't had the most impressive springs. But speaking of exit velos, the kids are all right against the Dodgers. A couple of, a couple of really, really incredibly hard hit balls and some really quality plate appearances. One from Sebastian Walcott hitting a ball 109 miles an hour, and Avi Ortiz, the Rangers' first base prospect, an undrafted undrafted signing in 2020 in that class, the first base prospect / a little bit outfield prospect, nearly hit a game not quite game tying. It would have been a 3-run homer to bring the Rangers within one in the ninth inning. 105.9 miles an hour off the bat, a near 900 expected batting average. Ball hit right to the track after Sebastian Walcott worked a very, very good walk, but it was a game-ending flyout. Abby Ortiz also hit a ball 109.8 miles an hour, a single that turned into a triple with a 2-base error. Sebastian Walcott putting up a 109-mile-an-hour groundout. Dylan Dreiling, who the Rangers drafted last year out of Tennessee, putting up a 108.9 mile an hour exit velocity on a lineout, nearly 600 expected batting average. A couple of guys having some rough innings, a couple of lefties coming in there against one of the best left-handed relievers, one of the best relievers in all of baseball. Cody Freeman, Marcus Smith, and Malcolm Moore. Malcolm Moore, the Rangers' first-round pick, a left-handed hitting catcher who has played fewer than 50 games of professional baseball, coming in and saying, hey, here's 99 miles an hour from the left side that you can't see worth jack. He can also throw that slider for strikes when he needs to. Good morning, good afternoon, good night for Malcolm Moore. Good morning, good afternoon, good night for Marcus Smith. And Cody Freeman, a valiant effort in a pop-out, didn't result in a strikeout. Honestly, I saw that, and here's 99 miles an hour. Here's what big leaguers look like, Malcolm Moore. Oof. That is a rough way to get introduced to the big leagues, but I know he values that time in big league camp. He has been sent down, him and Sebastian Walcott both sent down to minor league camp, but they can also just call them back up to go for a split squad game, and we'll probably see that a couple more times. The Rangers have, I know, at least one more split squad day before the end of spring training, but we'll probably see those guys just here and there with some sprinklings in a couple of big league games that they've already impressed quite a bit in their brief time in big league camp. But speaking of the kids, speaking of prospects, we have the spring training, spring breakout game. The rosters have been announced for the Rangers. It is basically a minor league exhibition where we can kind of see these guys on TV, see some of these prospects that you've heard quite a bit about. They'll be playing against, I believe, the Giants. That will be coming up in the middle of March. We have quite a few guys that are going to be in this that you're going to want to keep some eyes on. You look at the pitchers, Emiliano Teodo is going to be here in this spring breakout game. Little surprised that he is included on this because I believe he's fighting for a spot in the Rangers pen. He's on the outside looking in. I've talked a lot about him this week and how Bruce Bochy is saying, hey, this is a guy who we're thinking about making on the opening day roster. He's not one of the favorites, but he's got a chance for sure. Winston Santos, another one of the Rangers pitching prospects. He's a little bit further away from the big leagues than Emiliano Teodo. I think there's a better chance that he sticks as a starter. He's got an upside of a number 3 starter. Maybe he ends up just in the back end of the bullpen looking nasty there, but he's going to be on this roster. Josh Steven, Paul Bonzagni, Skylar Hales, who we've already seen a little bit of, David Davalillo. I swear, I'm eventually going to figure out how to pronounce that correctly, and when I do, it's over for the haters. But we're also going to see a little bit of Brian Magdaleno, who's on my top 30, a guy who the Rangers didn't protect in the Rule 5 draft, a lefty who chucks it up there into the upper 90s, someone to look out for. In terms of the catchers, Malcolm Moore, we'll see him there. Jesus Lopez, who I had on my top 30 prospects. A couple of guys on the infield who I'm really, really excited for. Cam Cauley, who, shout out to Cam Cauley, former guest on the show, who had a home run in a big league camp against the San Diego Padres yesterday in that split squad game. We'll also see Sebastian Walcott, who is not going to make the Rangers opening day roster, but we could see him the bigs by the end of this year. Yolfran Castillo, who is the Rangers' number 9 prospect according to MLB Pipeline. We'll see him in this game. He is a guy who has got a pretty decently high floor and jumped onto the scene last year. Also, Devin Fitz-Gerald, who was one of the Rangers' picks last year out of a Florida high school, I believe Stoneman Douglas. I believe he was signed over slot to get him away from his college commitment. We'll also see a little bit of Alejandro Ozuna, who we've seen quite a bit of this spring training. He has been really impressive. Dylan Dreiling, who is the Rangers' number 10 prospect. Paulino Santana, who is the Rangers' number 11 prospect. Yeremy Cabrera, Anthony Gutierrez, a little bit of Casey Cook, who the Rangers drafted in the 3rd round last year out of UNC. We'll also see Jason Morabel. I'm really excited for literally all of those outfielders. It will be televised on MLB Network. I believe that is just for out-of-market people. I'm not not sure how to watch it for in-market people like myself. Maybe it'll be on MLB TV. That would be my guess. Hopefully we can find some kind of stream somewhere. If it's only being televised outside of DFW or Texas or whatever, I feel like, okay, what's the point of this showcase? I think that it will be on MLB Network. I know it'll be on MLB Network. I'm hoping there'll be some kind of stream, whether it's on Rangers Sports Network, whether that's on Victory Plus, or just MLB TV, whatever it is. I'm hoping we can get some eyes on it, because this is a fun little game to showcase some of these prospects who you don't get to see all the time. It's much harder to watch those games, and they'll be going up against other top prospects, which will be very, very exciting. But something I am most excited about this spring training, although I don't believe we are getting any kind of televised version of this, today is officially deGrom Day. We made it. Jacob deGrom will be pitching in his first game today. It will be against the Rockies. It is finally happening. He will be going up against Chase Dollander. It will be at 7:40 p.m. Central Time. I thought this was going to be an afternoon game, but there will be a radio broadcast of it. I'm sure the Rangers will hopefully have a lot of cameras, because I want to see every single bit of Jacob deGrom's first game in the spring. There was a chance that it was going to be delayed until Saturday because of rain, but there will be a little bit of rain in the mornings. But since this is a night game, all that rain will have dissipated. Hopefully we'll have some StatCast data. I swear, if there's no StatCast data on Jacob deGrom's first start of the spring, I will lose my freaking mind. Also, we will see Wyatt Langford's debut this spring. He is finally back, recovered from that oblique injury. Very excited to see that. Very excited to see him back, and he will have plenty of reps, I think, to get ready. I think he's got plenty of time. Usually it takes hitters about, 2 or 3 weeks worth of games to finally get that rhythm and timing and stuff down. It just takes longer for pitchers to ramp up because they're pitchers. Jacob deGrom is going to start in the back half of the Rangers rotation, so we might not see him. We're not going to see him on opening day. They still haven't officially come out and said Nathan Eovaldi is the opening day starter. He will be. It's going to happen, barring some sort of injury. But Jacob deGrom will be making his spring debut. I'd imagine he gets 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 starts. I would imagine since he's going to be at literally the end of the Rangers rotation. The Rangers have 4 games at home, a 4-game series. And it seems a little ludicrous to me that you're not going to start Jacob deGrom in any of those 4 games. That his first start of the season is going to be on the road in Cincinnati, where the Rangers' 5th game of the season is going to be. But maybe we'll get to see him in one of those exhibition games, one of those final spring training games that's not in Arizona. It'll be one of those, dress rehearsal games at home. I believe those are going to be against the Kansas City Royals. So if you're wanting to go and watch a Jacob deGrom start in Globe Life Field, that is going to be, we'll see, but probably that Monday or Tuesday before opening day. I am so excited for Jacob deGrom. I am so excited for Wyatt Langford. I am so freaking excited for this season, and I am so excited that y'all are listening to Locked On Rangers. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.